Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Chris.
You little shit.
Oh, jeez. We've got Vince.
Elementary, my dear Kia. Elementary.
Great. And I'm Kia. Hi. Welcome to the show. We are reading some old-timey literature today from the year 2002. Very old-timey. We're reading The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen by Alan Moore, art by Kevin O'Neill. Lots of classic literary figures in here. We'll talk all about them. And then, of course, at the end, we are reading Avengers number 176. We're continuing our long read of the Korvac Saga. We're really close to the end. There's this one, then 177, and then we're done with it. Whew, all right. But that's up at the end of the episode. But for now, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I read this when it came out way back when. Oh, I guess it was 1999. I don't know why I said. I think the
movie was like 03, right? Was it 02 or 03?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very quick.
I never saw the movie. Yeah. Was the movie good?
No, it's very bad.
No.
Famously, Sean Connery read the script to The Matrix and was like, I don't understand this. And then he read the script to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And he's like, I don't understand this either, but I guess this is just how movies are.
And then he never made another movie.
Yeah, that is basically.
Wow. So I read this when it first came out. I apparently didn't remember any of this, period. Had y'all both read it as well?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I bought it in like a collected edition because it sounds cool as shit. And the movie
Mhm.
sounded cool. I heard the movie was bad, and I think it was like just at a time where I just wasn't able to go see it. And then it was told to be bad. But yeah, it's a bunch of like classic lit heroes all teaming up to fight something else. A little steampunky. It sounds cool.
Yeah, a lot
Invisible
of
Man, a
public
girl
domain characters.
Invisible Man. Yeah, but I think I hadn't heard about this when I was like, 16, 17. It's I don't know who Sean Connery is, but I know the Invisible Man and I know the girl from Dracula and Tom Sawyer, who's not here, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde teaming up, fighting crime.
Sure.
Sounds
Yeah.
awesome. Sounds awesome to me. Alan
All
Moore's
right.
supposed to be a good writer. I don't know why I didn't actually ever end up reading it, but here we go.
Oh, you've heard of this guy, huh?
So I mean, I guess we can just jump right into it. We'll meet all the characters as we go. Is there anything else we really have to say about it before we get started?
No, but if you do want to know about the movie, Your Stupid Minds covered it. So
Yeah, that's how good this movie is that we
I
covered it on
see.
our Bad Movie podcast.
Great. Maybe you'll have to do a two-shot. But listen to this, then read the comic, then listen to that podcast, then watch the movie, then do them both at the same time. The podcast, I mean, play them at the same
but
time.
every
each
time,
year at the
delete
same
the
time.
podcast and re-download it. That'd be
Yeah,
That's right.
important.
Every single time.
All right, so jumping straight into League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, issue 1. This takes place in 1895. We get a nice little letter from the editor, Mr.
1898.
Scotty Smiles. Oh, okay. Why did I write 1895? Mr. Scotty Smiles is greeting the reader and everyone who's rich enough to read the comic, and he's also greeting everyone poor enough who's going to be reading a used copy in a few years. That's cute. And also telling us that women are always making a fuss and that the Chinese are brilliant but evil. Very, very interesting little intro here that definitely is, I guess, in character of some sort.
I know it's supposed to be like cute and sarcastic, or like it's supposed to be like ironic, but it doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work.
It's a choice that doesn't work, but
it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. And there is a lot of like hating on women throughout this book as well. In terms, like, well, we'll get to it. It's meant to be like cutesy, like you were saying, of just like, oh, these men don't understand this strong woman, but it never really feels like I don't know.
this
There's
was
something
at
off
the time
about
where
it.
they hated women and Chinamen, and I'm like,
Yeah,
and the yellow menace. I wouldn't. I get it's period appropriate, but I don't know.
Yeah, we're getting that out of the way right now. Let's keep rolling. So we have Wilhelmina Murray. She's like our main character, kind of the leader of the team here. She is the character from Dracula. I've never read Dracula. I don't think I've seen Dracula, so I don't think.
I was in a Dracula play once, and so I remember.
Oh, me too, actually.
Yeah,
I watched a Dracula play once.
You were in my You watched my Dracula play, and Kia was in the Dracula Spectacular in 8th grade.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
There was a
You
character.
did you watch me in that?
I watched you in that.
Yeah,
Chris watched me in a Dracula.
I
I watched you in a
Vince.
Dracula.
So it's a real.
Now I need to watch Chris in a Dracula play.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Check me out, Key. I'm going to be off Broadway in a few months. My
Ooh, I
production
can't
of Dracula.
Can't wait. But no, I don't. If you had never, I mean, I had never really known much of anything about the Dracula backstory. She's just like a lady. There's nothing in particular about her other than like she doesn't want to take off her scarf, which is like okay, I guess that makes sense if she's got some bites there.
Yeah,
but nothing else about her that's like, oh, this is straight out of Dracula.
Yeah, if you read the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, you know you don't want to see what's under that scarf.
She's got an insane clan posse Tao too. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Her head will just flop right off.
That's honestly where I thought it was until you just reminded me it's vampire bites, Kia. Or Vince. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Not her head falling off.
Not her head falling off.
She was a character in Dracula. The Dracula, I think, like sucked all the blood of her fiance and then went after her.
Yes, Harker is her fiance, who I guess she got married to eventually in this comic. But yeah, then Dracula kills her friend Lucy, sucks her blood a couple of times, and it seems like she's going to turn into a vampire. But then they kill Dracula at the end. And so this is like following on from that, where it's like, is she a vampire or like what happened?
Okay. She is meeting kind of the guy who's assembling this team. His name is Campion Bond. What's he from? I don't know this name.
He
is just the grandfather of James Bond.
Is he a Moore creation or no?
Yes, he is. I don't think he's in the Bond novels, but yeah, he is designed to be James Bond like predecessor.
Okay.
And he, Miss Murray generally has no time for his kind of like male weirdness, like putting her down, blah, 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 asking about her ex-husband, all that kind of stuff. She's just like, listen, none of this stuff matters. They only know their employers as Mr. M. Miss Murray only knows that he is Mr. M. And she's like, oh, it's Mycroft Holmes. Duh. And Bond's like, well, maybe, but don't be so sure.
That's a good runner, I think.
It is a good runner. They just keep calling him Mr. M, and we don't really know exactly who it is until we get closer to the end there.
Yeah, and listeners have to remember, this came out like a decade and a half before Sherlock, where we all knew who Mycroft Holmes was.
Exactly, yeah.
Or
a little less popular back then.
Or the Mycroft Holmes book written by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's why everybody knows who Mycroft is.
Yes. Yeah, like Sherlock Holmes is smarter, even more on the spectrum, me brother.
Is that played by Stephen Fry in the Downey Jr. movie? I think he is.
I don't remember the Downey Jr. movie, except the part where he has like a sort of zoom in on Kurgan from the WWF's balls, and it's like, hit him here. This is his one weakness, the balls.
Incredible.
We're giving a lot of attention to Mycroft Holmes for something that's a fake out later.
But he's not in this.
He's not in
at
this.
all.
He's not in this. So her part, Miss Murray's part in this whole thing is to start finding the members of their crew. She is going to go to Cairo to find the first person, and her ride shows up. It's bubbling up under the water. We'll see more of that later. But she heads to Cairo. I do like any time that they are in like a international location, they just they don't bother translating the dialogue. They just let people be speaking other languages and have that that language, and you just can't read it, and that's okay. Yeah. So she's in Cairo, and she is going to look for Alan Quatermain. Quatermain? I don't know. Okay. And he is a character from like adventure novels from the late 1800s, right? Yes. I've never read any of these, but
I've read Dracula, and I've read King Solomon's Mines. He's from that book, and he's in a few other. H. Rider Haggard, that's his real name. He was probably the first or second most famous creation of an adventure novelist who had a bunch of adventure books in darkest Africa. And then whenever Agatha Christie has the like hunter archetype that is like back from Africa, it's very much based on him.
Okay.
I'd never heard of Quatermain until I knew Sean Connery was playing him in the movie. That's the first time I ever heard. But there were like some 80s movies of him made by like Golden and Globus for cheap. And then Chris, I think you said there was a 30s movie with him.
Yes. Previous episode, we've done, I think, either King Solomon's Mines or the other one for Your Stupid Minds, because Golden Globus covered them and just made them Indiana Jones ripoffs, which, I mean, he is an Indiana Jones ripoff himself. Indiana Jones is based on him, rather, as just like an adventuring sort of like as a hobby guy.
Like Scrooge McDuck. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're all Scrooge McDuck ripoffs.
Yeah. He wears that hunter hat and has like a big elephant gun, like the type.
The pogo stick, yeah. So Mr. Quartermain just wants to be left alone. He is like high on opium all the time. Big problem for him. And Miss Murray is trying to convince him to get going, and I guess so a couple of randos just bust in and try to rough her up and all that. Yeah, not great. And Quartermain holds up a gun and shoots one. Miss Murray stabs the other one in the back. They run out together, head to the docks. And it's like, the docks? I thought you said you were from the embassy. I don't want to go. Where are we going? I need opium. Where am I going to find opium? But Nemo shows up in the Nautilus.
Captain Nemo himself.
That's from a movie that my grandma bought for me that I didn't really get, but I watched a lot of times thinking I should get it. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I watched it a lot. I don't retain any of it, other than there's a squid at the
not
end.
in Slumberland at all. It's regular Captain Nemo.
Different Nemo. Different Nemo.
Are they the same Nemo? I thought they were.
No,
as a 6-year-old, I thought they were the same. Okay.
No, they're very different.
Yeah, Little Nemo and Slumberland. That's like a comic. We should read that.
Yeah,
Winsor McKay. It's the first comic.
And then it was like a 30s comic, and then turned into a very expensive botch of a movie that bankrupted a studio.
Ooh. But yeah, this is again not that Nemo. We're talking about Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Beautiful ship. He shows up just in time. They get on the boat. They blast some folks with a gun. And he's like, oh, God, if I have to have a woman on my ship, I'd rather she'd be alive. I'm like, great, thanks for your help, Nemo. Quartermain is starting to get
He's really the Kia of the group, too.
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe.
I say he is.
All right. So Quartermain is getting like better. He's going through some opium withdrawals, but he's gonna get through it. And then he and Mrs. Murray now go to France. They're going to find the next guy. And they are meeting up with some detective, and he's like, oh, these murders from 1841 are happening again. I had decided back then, I deduced it was an ape. But 2 months ago, we discovered some more murders, and there was a prostitute with her neck snapped, and more neck snapped prostitutes are turning up. And
reference to Murders in the Rue Morgue by Edgar Allan Poe, the only American-born literature in this story, but it's set in France, so I guess that's how it gets away with it.
That's fair. Miss Murray says, you know what? I'll use myself as bait. I'm going to dress up as a whore, and we're going to see if this guy who's killing prostitutes is going to find me.
Yeah. They also mentioned, they're like, maybe it's related to that Whitechapel murder from 10 years ago. And there's not like a little asterisk that's like, read From Hell for more.
From Hell
there might as well be.
I know From Hell has like an appendix that's as long as the book, but none so here. Although that would have been fun to have an appendix in my version.
Yeah, probably could have used one.
Yeah, there isn't a fun appendix. There, like, almost every single character you meet is from a book in this story, which I think is fun. You don't need to know that, but it's fun to know. Like, the characters we're going to meet in the next issue that you're like, really? Her?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's from a book.
Yeah, I mean, you could just have like anybody randomly talking about like, you didn't have to have the guy from the Murders in the Rue Morgue telling them these clues.
Yes. Yeah. You just had to have a French detective. And they're like, nope, he has to be a French detective from an American mystery novel from 140 years ago.
Yeah. So Miss Murray is all dressed up. Quartermain is like watching her back, but he gets kind of bored and he heads into a pharmacy to get some just some alcohol, just some booze.
One job.
Yeah, that's one job. He comes out and she's gone. He's like, oh shit. He runs towards the detective. He's like, I lost her. And they run around. They eventually find. They like ask some of the other like regulars, and they're like, "Oh yeah, she walked off with Henry."
Yeah, she went with Henry, a local guy, a nerd we know who orders prostitutes. Nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry
Why'd
about.
she go with him?
I don't know. Yeah, that's the question. That's what I was confused about. She was like, they're looking for this big, strong guy who snaps necks, and she's like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with this guy instead.
I'm not.
Yeah,
she's like too deep in the part.
Yeah. Maybe she thought Quartermain had her back and would bail her out before she had to actually have sex with this guy.
But she just picked a random dude. She didn't know that this dude might actually be the guy.
Yeah, but like I said, she thought Quartermain had her back and would be like, sorry, wrong, false alarm.
False alarm. But she like they eventually track her down. They go to his place, and she's like screaming. Yeah. And they go into the room. It's
somebody
not
throws
Henry.
something through a window, and they're like, that's probably it.
Yeah, but it's not Henry anymore. It's Edward. And they never actually say Jekyll and Hyde in this issue. I think they of course say them a little bit later, but this is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, whenever Bond is like, we've had them as we're sort of interviewing them in separate rooms. They explain who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
this is where Quartermain shoots the ear off of Hyde.
Yeah.
Does my quote from the beginning of this episode.
I even wrote that one down. You little shit. It's a good quote.
So going back though, Kia, like you said they didn't explicitly say it's Jekyll and Hyde. Would that work better or not? Like, I mean, I know the premise of the book, but like the fact that like, would it have been a better cliffhanger if it had said I am Mr. Hyde? Or
this is kind of bleeding into my final thoughts a little bit, but I don't think knowing anything matters for this book.
Okay.
So it's just like, look at this big cool monster. That's enough of a cliffhanger. Okay. Right there. And that's
it is to me, and I will say, as someone who's read all of this stuff, it is fun because it's just like, as someone who knew who the detective was from Murders in the Rue Morgue, I was like, oh, he thinks it's an ape man, so it must be a monster man. So it does reward like a reader who is just like knows way too much about British literature. Like all of these surprises are super obvious if you've read British literature.
Right, because I guess like later, they do discover who Mr. M is, and they talk about it. And if you know who Mr. M is, they don't say his explicit name for 10 pages.
And you know who it is though. If you know who Mycroft Holmes is, and you're like, who else could M stand for?
Yeah, somebody who's written. I wrote several of the books, but and even then I was like, wait a goddamn minute, I'm not a very good writer apparently, but that's okay.
Well, I'll have thoughts about that when we get there. I will say the design on Mr. Hyde is great. I love it. I just generally really love Kevin O'Neill's art throughout all this.
Yeah, and he draws it basically like he's drawing like a 19th century The Hulk, where he is like 20 feet tall. He is a ape monster.
This book is very much though, like to me, like the Avengers movie, in that like if you picture Mina as like Black Widow, like you even have like her going into like a foreign country to recruit a hero. She recruited like Bruce Banner that way. She recruits Quartermain, and then like her going up against the Hulk feels very much like she's going up against Mr. Hyde. Like I get it, this almost feels like they read this and like, this is a good way to do it, like a team assembling book for Avengers the movie.
There's scenes later that I 100% picked up on that as well, where it's Black Widow and Hulk 100%. But just overall, I think I really dig Kevin O'Neill's art. I just want to. There's very few specific scenes where I'm like, oh, look how great this was, but I don't know, just the way he does faces, nothing feels samey. Everyone's really nice and distinct, and
that's a good point. Yeah, everyone
really
is
nice.
They do pass the silhouette test really well. It's very stylized. I think I didn't like it when like flipping through. I was like, I don't know about this, like 10 years ago. But you're right. Like we talked about this too. I think with Jim Lee and like All Star Batman, like individual panels look really good, and then like action doesn't work sometimes in that All Star Batman. But like everything is really easy and logical to follow, and this is like the least textually dense Moore book I've ever read.
Probably. It's still fairly textually dense at times, but even then, not very.
Yeah, maybe Swamp Thing is less dense.
This is the
But
quickest
yeah,
read I've ever read a Moore book, though.
Yeah, let's keep going straight into issue 2 here. They do shoot off Hyde's ear, and what do we get? Miss Murray is recapping this whole experience in a letter to Mr. Bond as well, just kind of letting him know what's going on. But Quartermain comes up behind Hyde, strangles him, shoves the bottle of alcohol in his mouth, and he's like, "Oh my God, you poisoned me!" And he falls out a window. They go down to the body, and Miss Murray's like, "Yeah, he did not look like that when we met earlier." And they load Hyde onto the Nautilus. Miss Murray in her letter is now talking about how, like, when Jekyll wakes up, he's missing his ear now because they shot it off. But also, like, hey, Bond, why didn't you brief me on this guy? Because it kind of seems like you knew what was going on, and now you've got me on a team with a pirate and a drug addict and a changeling. That's cool. Okay.
yeah. And it's like, oh, this is
then-
what you think of me, huh? That's what I am
Yeah.
to you. She doesn't say
so
what
then
she
the-
thinks she is. But again, if you've seen the LXG movie where she's like underworlding all over the place, like turning into bats at left and right.
So they do make their way back to England to Bond, and Miss Murray is like, "Oh, I almost died twice for this boss, for Mycroft Holmes," and Bond's like, "No, it's not him." Next, they are sent to find Hawley Griffin is his name, Hawley, I think I spelled it right. And he's an albino who was murdered by a mob, but his school records say he wasn't an albino. And also, there's like an Edmonton girls' school as part of it, where 3 of their students have had immaculate conceptions recently, and no one knows exactly how these things are linked together. But that's their new mission. They're gonna head out there while Hyde is getting sedated by some people, and they're testing him out, and blah blah blah. So the team is now still Murray and Quartermain with Nemo pretending to be their manservant. Murray and Quartermain are pretending to be a married couple who are looking to send their fake daughter to this school, and so they go and they meet with the headmistress there. You said, is the headmistress from a book as well?
Yes.
No, I don't even remember her name. I didn't even write it down. I don't know who she is. But they're hanging out. They like whip people. They whip the girls there. They're really rough. It's a rough school. They meet one of the pregnant girls as well. All of these immaculate conceptions are happening in one wing of the school, which seems fishy to me here. Like right off the bat, I would say 1 immaculate conception seems fishy. 3 coming from the same wing of a school is hard to believe. So they get some like a couple's room where they're staying. I do like this a little bit here. They get a nice room for the married couple, and then a nice little tiny room for the manservant. And Nemo and Quartermain are like, well, it only seems fair. The one lady gets a smaller room, and we'll get the bigger room. And then next panel, it's the 2 guys in the tiny room together, which fun little.
Yeah, they're like, how did this happen?
Ah, geez. And they hear a scream in the middle of the night. It's got Polly, whatever it is. She's floating in the air, being held by something, being immaculately concepted, however that verbiage works.
Yeah, I mean, there's other words for that, but yeah.
Yes. And she's just like floating in the air, and they're like, okay, this is what's going on. Murray grabs a bucket of, is this paint? And just like throws it at the what we now know to be the Invisible Man, covered in paint. Whacks him with the bucket. Passes out. They wrap him in a rug and carry him away. And the story with the albino who got murdered by the mob was apparently just like his guinea pig that it was testing this Invisible Man stuff on. I guess that's all in the book. You can read the Invisible Man if you want to learn more about that. And Bond introduces them to so now that the whole team is kind of together, Bond introduces them to the guy that they're really all assembled to help, a guy named Selwyn Caver. He's in charge of England's proposed lunar expedition. He's created an anti-grav material called Cavorite.
Another H.G. Wells character.
Oh, Okay. And I feel like I've seen this like anti-grav thing somewhere or other. Like remember it from something. I don't know. Maybe I have read some H.G. Wells. Maybe I remember remembering it from when I read this forever ago. Who knows? But that's their goal, to go find this anti-grav material that has been stolen. Cool. Now we know why we're here. Anything to say about number 2 before we jump into 3?
I don't like the Invisible Man's introduction. I'm not a fan.
No, it's not great.
The fact that he's still their team member and it's not played as horrific as it should be, like bothers me just a smidge. Like he's literally he's raped at least 3 women in their sleep and was picking up another one and just going for it.
Yeah. So, and I'm literally just reading it here, but Katie Carr is the headstrong heroine from the 1872 novel What Katie Did at School, and What Katie Did Next. So there you go. She's like 13 years older now, or 12 years older. Miss Flabum, part of Stories in the Pearl, and then Pollyanna, of course. You've heard of her, so I don't have to explain who that is.
Yeah. That's another Disney movie that I watched a lot of.
Yeah, it is so. I mean, like it's either like, okay, this is just all going to be like this. Yes, the Invisible Man, and of course, Vince, you'll be heartened to hear in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie, they make the Invisible Man the traitor, along with a character who's not in the movies at all. The Dorian Gray character, also
that's right.
evil.
Dorian Gray was in the movie.
Movie. So, Well, actually, maybe Dorian Gray was the actual betrayer, but they all thought it was the Invisible Man because he's a creep.
So after this introduction, I was like, well, all right, I wonder how they're going to reconcile the Invisible Man with everything else, and they kind of just don't. They just never mention this again.
He just wants a cure, basically. He's just like, I've been bored, and so I've been having sex with people while I'm invisible.
Yeah, it's weird. But basically, the deal with both Invisible Man and Jekyll and Hyde being on the team is like, we'll try to find you a cure. Invisible Man, you'll get a pardon if you help us, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, they just kind of don't mention any of that stuff again. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, well,
but
it is what it is. None of them are perfect characters. I mean, for one thing, Mina's divorced, so she's.
It's the same thing. It really is.
Tarnished
both mortal sins.
Yeah.
Invisible Man. Now, okay, so Invisible Man is like, I'm here for the pardon, for the cure. Captain Nemo is like, hey, you should be invested in this mission here, because if the people who stole this cavorite from England decide to do an aerial bombardment on us, we're all dead. We got no defense against this.
I do like that. I think that's a really like cool stakes that like seems very mundane. I was like, okay, cool, they have planes, big fucking whoop. Except like it's mundane to us as the reader today, but it's very much like high stakes in 1898 or whatever this is.
Yeah, like they don't even have the understanding of like aerial warfare. So they're just like, this should just be the end.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do. That is also like, this is something I often think about, is like the planes where the Wright brothers were invented, like 1896 thereabouts, and like 20 years later, like a major part of World War I. Like it's amazing how fast like airplanes got adapted to modern warfare.
Yeah.
No.
So this is a big deal. Like, these people could just run roughshod over. Like, there's no way to get them. There's no surface to air missiles. There's nothing. There's no defense against like one airplane.
Yeah. Meanwhile, bicycles invented like 10 years earlier. Useless in war.
Useless. So we now have everyone kind of getting ready to go head out and do some stuff. Invisible Man puts on like a ton of makeup, so he looks like a human person.
We gotta know where he
like
is.
Shit. God, he looks terrible. He's horrid.
I like that he's a creepy little jerk that's like constantly like chuckling to himself. I do appreciate that.
So Nemo stays on the Nautilus as like a base of operations. The Invisible Man and Murray head to a tea shop, and they are looking for the Doctor. And he doesn't say much, but he hints at something like under the bridge in the water, like some tunnels or something. Meanwhile, Quartermain and Jekyll are checking some places out. Are they? They're in China now, right? Or are they just like in Chinatown?
They're in a Chinatown.
Okay. They're in Chinatown, and they are looking just again for this particular guy, the doctor. I think they keep calling him. No, Ho Ling is who they're looking for.
Shang-Chi's dad himself.
That's right.
There's a dude being tortured in the back of this establishment. They like open the door and they see this guy just hanging there, and somebody's writing on him with acid or acid of some sort, and like turns his head and he like kind of looks like a demon, and he looks Quartermain in the eye, and Quartermain's like, "Oh, I think we should go get out of here."
Yeah. I like the way that the artist frames the next page of like Dr. Jekyll just sort of like doing his Edward Norton breathing exercises, just like, okay, everything's okay.
Yeah, he's well, it's all while Quartermain is like lying to this guy at the thing about who they really are, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for this guy." And they're like, "Oh, what are you, friends of his?" And he's like, "Oh no, he sold me some bad opium." They're like, "What's wrong with your friend?" "Oh, he ate the bad opium." "Oh no." And it's like, okay, they get past it, and yeah.
He manages not to turn into a 12-foot ape man and destroy
Good job, Jekyll.
everybody.
You held it together. Proud of you. Everyone pretty much gets together here. They start to go to a poorhouse across from this underwater tunnel because that's where they think they're going to find the entrance to this tunnel place. Again, Quartermain and Murray pretend to be a poor married couple. And I like when they're heading into the place. Invisible Man just like pushes past them and the guy who was like at the door, and it's like, "What was that?" And like, "It was just the wind."
I do actually, as creepy, I understand Vince. From the moral event horizon, Invisible Man is very bad. Like the stuff he does, like when he bails them out when they're in a jam, you're like, okay, well, I guess you're all right, Invisible.
I mean,
he really is. Go ahead.
I think they could have just like introduced him like not as a rapist. Like he could have just been like they could have just been like the Center for Wayward Girls are just girls who like to party, and he's like, "Hey, we can party and no one's gonna know." Like he could give the women more like autonomy and more like sexual drive in this, and then he's just a scamp still, which is what we want him to be, but without being a rapist. There's ways to do this.
Yeah, there's definitely ways.
But he's flawed in that way. You can't root for him. He much like the comedian in Watchmen. You can't root for the comedian.
Mm-hmm. So they go snooping around in this poorhouse. They find the way to the tunnels, and they do find this giant warship that has been built. It's gigantic. It's huge. It's crazy impressive.
Look at that warship. It's huge.
Yeah,
that's how I'd pull Johnny Bravo into this book later. That's what he would say.
So straight into issue 4 here. Nemo meets Ishmael, and who's the other guy? Jack, was that his name? From characters from Moby Dick. Very cool. Mm-hmm. We get Murray and Quartermain are climbing.
American literature. Boo.
Boo. We just want British stuff.
Although Mina does look, when she sees the previous leagues, she sees the Scarlet Pimpernel, and she also sees Natty Bumppo from the Leather Stocking books from James Fenimore Cooper. So American literature has clearly been part of this the whole time. They should have had Ichabod Crane in there too. He defeats Sleepy Hollow.
He'd be a good member of the league.
Yeah.
I saw Gulliver's Travels on there too, right?
Yeah, he's there.
There's lots of if you just keep your eyes open, lots of little background stuff every time. There's like, especially with the government, it's like, oh, look at all these other people that have worked for the government. How nice. Murray and Quartermain now are climbing down the scaffolding, head into this big warship. Murray tells Quartermain not to look up her skirt, but he definitely is.
Cool guys, y'all are all winners.
Yep, they're all winners. They see that I guess that guy was the Lord of the Limehouse. That was like the demon guy they saw? He's being carried through on like a palanquin kind of deal. Quartermain has his elephant gun with him, even though it has just one shot and will take forever to reload, but he just feels safer with it. A guard spots them, and Murray's like, "No, don't shoot it. You're gonna like really fuck us if you do that." But thankfully, the Invisible Man, our hero, is there to slice the guy's throat and save them. Murray tells Quartermain to put on the guy's clothes so that he can pretend to be like one of them and go sneaking around trying to find stuff. And they tell Invisible Man to go get Jekyll so that he can turn into Hyde and create a diversion while they get the Cavalry out. Seems like a pretty good plan.
It's very much a Hulk thing.
Yeah. Jekyll goes to like the front of the storefront of this place and asks for the manager. And he gets all riled up and turns into the Hulk. Starts a fire on accident.
Yes.
What was this deal with the like? There's some thermal vision going on with the Invisible Man where I can't tell if Mr. Hyde can just see Invisible Man perfectly.
So he can see him perfectly, but he just lies because this is, again, Vince, you were talking about how Invisible Man's a scoundrel. Hyde is like more of a scoundrel. So he's like, I can see him, but I'm not going to let him know I can. I'm just going to lie right to his face, which I do kind of love that Hyde is just like, he is, like in the stories, he's cunning like an animal where he's like, I don't see where you're pointing. You have to tell me. Where he's like looking exactly where.
I expected that to come back somehow. And be
it
like,
will.
Okay, he can.
It will.
Did it? Maybe I didn't.
Well, not in this story, but don't worry. Invisible Man gets his.
All right. Okay. In a future volume. All right.
Hyde is kind of a hero in this book, which it seems that he seems like he's a anti-hero, but it's like Hyde is actually great.
He's pretty good, even though again I guess he was also introduced as a prostitute murderer. Not great, but
not a great introduction. But maybe a gorilla framed him. We don't know.
We don't know. You're right. We don't know. They go to. Where am I? I've lost where I was.
They go like under the river, right?
Yes. Okay. That's right. We got this fire going on. We have Quartermain. He gets the Cavalry, right? And they start to head out, and they run into Hyde, Invisible Man, and together they get to like.
It looks like plutonium or uranium. It's like glowing green, like underground.
Yeah, in like a sealed kind of deal, and they're stuck in this dead end. They're like, oh my god, there's no way out. The guards are coming at us. And Miss Murray has the idea to open the container of the Cavalry, and they'll all hold on, and they'll float up with its flying powers, and they'll blast up through the ship. They'll break a hole in the ship, and water will come like crashing down, but they'll be okay because they have the anti-grav, and they'll go flying up.
Yeah. They'll rise up through the river and not drown.
And it works. It does. They go crashing up. They go up out of the water. And this anti-grav stuff just keeps working, and they keep on flying up out of the water. And so she has to close it and seal it, and they go crashing down into the water. Amazing. I kind of like this scene. It's a neat little way to get out of there.
Yeah, and then the last page is just the Nautilus with its like squid face, like rising up out of the water to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
And then later they're all debriefing with Bond. And just kind of they're like, oh, thank you for finding the thing, congratulations. And Griffin, the Invisible Man, he's been quiet, been too quiet. And they like touch his clothes, and he just like it's just empty clothes, and they fall over, just bandages and nothing. And he seems to be following Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond goes to meet his boss, and it's not Mycroft Holmes, it's James M? Who's James M? It's Moriarty. We figured it out at this point.
For half a second, I thought maybe it was a time traveling old James Bond. Said, call me James.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, having said that, I was like, okay, it's probably James Moriarty. In the next scene, I was like, wait, who is this guy? And I lost track of it all again. This scene was a little bit tough for me to just kind of figure out what was going on a little bit.
Right, because it's a flashback to the death of Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, it's a flashback to 1891, Switzerland. It's Sherlock Holmes and James Moriarty at the top of like a waterfall. And they're chatting, a nice little polite chat, and then they're like, "All right, ready to fight? Let's fight."
You can read more about this in The Adventure of the Empty House by Vincent Goodwin, published 2000.
Wow. Who's the artist on that, Vince?
Ben Dunn, artist of Warrior Nun and in Netflix's classic Warrior Nun.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
what else did he make? Ninja High School. Yeah.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Sold.
Sure to go check that out.
It's a real, superstar team.
Yeah.
Even that actually is printed as a flashback though. 'Cause I think that story starts off with like Holmes is dead.
So in this flashback, he gets knocked off. Moriarty gets knocked off of this waterfall, goes crashing down, hits a rock on his way down. Still doesn't die though. Gets found by Bond, who rescues him. That's they're reminiscing about that. Apparently, this James fellow now, this Moriarty fellow, is the director of military intelligence, but also he's a criminal. Is he a criminal who's pretending to be a director? Is he a director who pretending to be a criminal? Who knows? A little bit of both.
I like that. It's like, hey, we're gonna make you go undercover, but then and then he wets his beak, and then he's like, wait a sec, what am I really?
Just, pretty good.
Doesn't happen at all in real life, huh?
No. The CIA has never created a terrorist or other asset that they've been committed a bunch of crimes.
Never.
Never. So this criminal now, he has the cavalry, and he has been building his own war chariot. Meanwhile, Invisible Man has been listening to all this. He heads back, kills some guards, steals his clothes, just kind of nonchalantly walking through a bunch of people. Seems like a bad idea. Back on the Nautilus, Murray has found out that Nemo sent Invisible Man to spy on Bond, and they're like, y'all are not respecting my authority. I'm in charge here. You got to tell me before you do this stuff. And Nemo and Quartermain are like, women, am I right? And that's kind of it. Invisible Man reports everything he heard, tells them. He says they're going to do a raid on the Chinaman tonight. Because that's like his main enemy, the Doctor. At first, I was kind of hoping, because it was very British, that this was going to be like an old-timey Doctor Who kind of deal, but because they kept mentioning the Doctor a lot. It's not. No Doctor Who in this, unfortunately. But we have Nemo. Nemo in all this is now realizing this is James Moriarty. This is the main bad guy. And they got to stop him because he's the real bad guy, and now they've given him the cavalry, and he's got the power to just run a raid on everybody. So Nemo's going to look for something they can use to take him down. He's like, I know I've got it here somewhere. I don't know what he's looking for. While Murray and Quartermain head out to try and just keep him from taking off in the first place.
Yeah.
Pretty good plan.
There's also a fun scene where Mina just keeps slapping Jekyll in the face to turn him into Hyde. He's like, Miss Mina, please. And she's like, no, we need Hyde out here.
Is that in this? I thought it was in the next issue.
I think it's in this issue.
Where they so where we are now, so Jekyll is sweating bullets because he realizes, okay, they're going to attack the East End. That's where they are. They're going to remove all the witnesses. But he doesn't transform yet. Where is it? It is somewhere around here.
Yeah, because like I said, the scene is that Mina just starts slapping him in the face repeatedly.
It's a pretty good way. And then that's where I got like the whole vibes of the Hulk and Black Widow 100%, where she's slapping him in the face repeatedly, and he turns and like grabs her arm, and she's like, please let go of me. And he listens.
Right, nice. Yeah. Quartermain's like, we're going to have to kill Hyde. And she's like, that won't be necessary. Let me go. And he's like, okay.
Sun's going down, Hyde.
Yep.
This is before this version of the Hulk exists, just so everyone knows. Like, this is not a rip-off of the Avengers movies.
Well, they ripped this off. Off.
I mean, it's final thoughts, but it's a pretty good forming and storming a team book.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing, and I'm sure it was in Whedon's mind. Comparing a bunch of characters from disparate books and different franchises together, figuring out their archetypes, putting them together.
Right, different characters from who were all the protagonists of like different thematic, even like worlds, like sci-fi versus like horror and just being like, whatever, just throw them together, see what happens.
So on to the last issue here, issue 6. Moriarty has indeed taken off. Murray and Quartermain go back to the Nautilus, and Nemo has found what he was looking for. It's a hot air balloon. Amazing.
My friend
not
Jules
exactly-
Verne told me how this works.
Yeah, it's not exactly something they're like, oh, so we're just gonna like float over to them. Is that it? And he's like, yeah, well, we got some guns.
I was
yeah,
like I said though, I was legit thinking like, how are they gonna get up there? And
Yep.
they saw the hot air balloon. I'm like, oh, you sons of bitches, you lucky.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. He knows. He's 2 steps ahead of you, Vince.
I love it. It's good. I'm happy. I also think it's funny that
I
Jules
do-
Verne is a writer character in these things. Like Jules Verne kind of always self-inserted. I don't know if he self-inserted himself in his stories. I've never actually read them, but he always seems to be like mentioned along. I guess Wells was the same way.
Yeah, well, and there's so much Wells, and it makes sense. Verne is slightly before Wells, and that's why Nemo's older. They talk about how all this stuff happened like 20 years ago with a Nautilus.
That's right. 20,000 Leagues was Jules Verne. That's right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have now. They go back to. I love this scene. This is one of my favorite splash pages in all this, where the Chinese have sent their troops out to try and like intercept Moriarty's ship, and it's just like all these beautiful Chinese gliders and everything with just a variety of designs. I don't know. I think that's my panel of the week.
Yeah, it's pretty damn cool.
It's very nice. And just all the big splash panels. Anytime there's multiple people all being like murdered and dying, it's just like a sea of faces. And I don't know, there's something really nice and chaotic about them. But the team does sneak onto the ship. Jekyll's like, yeah, I probably won't need one. Oh, this is where I wrote that he slaps him till he wakes up.
Right, yeah, that's where it happens.
And then Nemo mows a whole bunch of them down with his gun. Hyde starts smashing a ton of them to death. Murray's like, this is kind of violent. I don't need to be here. And also they're like, I think Nemo's more violent than Hyde. He seems more messed up.
Well, he's a man without a country.
Kia. Yes, maybe he is the Kia of the group. Who knows?
Wow.
No. So they start heading up to look for the Cavorite. Murray climbs up to like the top and finds Moriarty up there, and Quartermain comes up behind her and starts mowing down some guards with his gun. But Moriarty shoots Quartermain, and Moriarty's about to finish Quartermain off. Oh no! But Murray smashes open the Cavorite container with like a wrench and throws it overboard.
Yeah, I love the framing
flying.
of that scene because it looks like, because she's got a huge wrench and she's coming up behind Moriarty, and it looks like she's going to bop him, but she runs past him to hit the Cavorite.
It's great. And it goes flying out of there. Moriarty's like, no, my Cavorite, and jumps overboard to go catch it. And he does catch it, but then it just starts floating up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And Moriarty is who knows where. He's up.
He's in space.
He's in space.
Moriarty's in space. Yep.
And we then have everybody realizing, oh, wait a minute, nothing is holding the ship up now. yeah. And they're like, oh shit, let's go.
Helicarrier
to the hot air
crashing.
balloon.
Now the helicarrier is crashing.
They get to the hot air balloon and crash into the ocean. And then they've survived. They make it alive. It's a little rough going there. Hyde has to like jump for the balloon, and they're worried his weight is going to bring it down, but they're okay. The new head of intelligence thanks them. Who was this? They never said his name. Was this Mycroft?
Yeah, this is Mycroft.
Yes.
This is Mycroft. Great. So he's the new head of intelligence now. Thanks to them. He's like, yeah, we'll keep you on as retainers. We'll double your pay. Incredible.
Invisible Man says, now we know what happened to his brother. Or now we know what happened to Sherlock. His brother ate him.
Because he's kind of fat.
Yeah. He's a real piece of shit.
Yeah. And that's it for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Volume 1.
They say, you're a team now. We'll have more adventures in the future.
Yeah. I liked it more talking about it. I don't think I liked this that much when we were first reading it. When I was first reading it, and I didn't remember this at all. But it's fun. It's pretty good.
I think the overall like MacGuffin is a little anticlimactic, and but I agree. Like it's more fun to talk with Chris and his annotations to tell me what's going on with everything.
It did help.
It did help. I mean, but it is enjoyable. But like at the same time, I'm like, this is a good it's a good baseline for making a superhero team. I also got like massive New Frontier vibes from it, and this predates DC the New Frontier by a few years. But in the same sense that like it's trying to blend all of these superhero or classic lit stories in real time. So, people are, if their story was written in 1898, then they're 10 years older in this, or 1888, I'm sorry. They're like 10 years older here, which is, Chris, why I think you're so incredulous about Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer would have to be like an old man at this point in the movie. But I like that, it's, that everything is, reasonably in the right time period for when these things happened. And that's the thing that I really liked about DC New Frontier is, and Marvel's, I guess, for that point, is trying to make all these things fit in a logical or illogical timeline. I think that this book does that really well. And it's fun. It's a cool ass concept.
Yeah, I think this again. So it doesn't feel like any of those details. They're cute and they're nice to see and all that. It doesn't feel like they actually had any impact on the story, which is probably not fair to say because they impacted their characters for sure. But I don't know. It just felt like maybe I wanted to see more of those details in the book and have them matter a little bit. But it doesn't. It just felt. It felt so independent of all that.
Well, the fact that like Minas from Dracula doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's cute with the scarf. Okay, it's cute that they mention her ex-husband. Whatever. Yeah,
she gets freaked out when she sees like a billboard for Whitby because that's where Dracula showed up.
But you could take you could take any character from this time. Like it could be Elizabeth Bennet, and this book wouldn't change that much aside from like time period and stuff.
Yeah.
Like somebody from Pride and Prejudice. Aside from like, oh, I broke up with that person. I was in that thing.
But to me, like, so I understand that, but it is, it's like if to me that's a criticism that's like just watching Avengers 1 and being like, yeah, it's an okay action movie, but like,
right.
So what? Like if you don't actually know who any of the characters are in Avengers, you're like, yeah, it's fine.
That's true.
But the fact that they combined the protagonists of like 5 movies and said, like, what if we put, even though thematically Captain America is completely different from Iron Man, is completely different from, these other movies, and we're just like, or from Thor, and we're just going to throw them together and see what happens. That's, we've got Captain Nemo, again, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Jules Verne is like almost, not quite a generation, but he's more of a contemporary with Poe than he is with Conan Doyle and H.G. Wells. But then we've got all this like 19th century stuff kind of thrown together, all of this just random weird stuff thrown on top of it. But it's characters that if you've read any British literature, and that's the fun part. And then how they sort of bounce off each other is pretty cool. And like there's more stories in it. Like that this is part 1. Like, and unfortunately, I don't think they ever have Dracula come back, but like, they could have like Dracula show up, or they could have like She Who Must Be Obeyed, Aisha, show up from Quartermain, or they could have all these other villains that these characters know be like a storyline. So there's a lot of like, oh, like, what are they going to do? Which, they have like one more story, I think, with the original League, and then they jump forward 50 years. So they never really pay off on much of it.
Oh, really? Okay.
But yeah, I still think it's cool.
I think it's cool. And it makes me want to read or check out other things. Like as I said, I was very bored by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea as a kid, but I'm like, is this what Captain Nemo's like? Maybe I should, give this another look. What's this Quartermain guy? If it's an Indiana Jones, like of that time period, you said he was like just as popular as Holmes at the time, like the 1890s. I'm like, oh, well, I love Holmes, so maybe that's a fun potboiler to read. Like I think,
yeah. For me, I think it's like you were saying. It's all cool. but I don't know any of it. So like, if I
Yeah.
just had like an appendix or like just little editor's notes, like this is this guy from this book, I'd be like, oh, awesome. That would instantly like increase my enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
That's that
But
trading
that's
card
like
stuff. Like Quartermain did this shit.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and Kia, I mean, you that's why you should watch the movie where Tom Sawyer shows up and you're like, oh, Tom Sawyer, I know who that is.
never read it. Don't care.
I did
Don't
read
know who that
Dorian
is.
Gray because Dorian Gray was in the movie, and I think he was played by like the villain from Blade or something. If I'm right.
He's some handsome jerk.
Might have
But
been
yeah,
it might have been Lestat from Queen of the Damned.
and then, like I said, in that movie, it's impossible to not know that Mina is from Dracula because she's like literally turning into bats and like flapping around. So you're like, oh, okay, she's a vampire. I get
Yeah,
it.
don't put me in that
Cool.
room because that's the thing is that me and Kate would have been like, she's from Dracula. We'll do some vampire stuff. So that's why
she doesn't do any cool vampire tricks.
that's what I'm complaining.
I mean, yeah, she doesn't. She doesn't do anything. No vampire tricks in this.
I mean,
book.
she's
No.
not actually turned into a vampire in the book. All right.
It was from the
Not gonna argue
director of
this.
Blade. That's why Blade is in my head. Okay.
Not going to argue whether or not
That-
Mina's a
that-
vampire in the novel.
All right. I think. Is there anything else we want to say about League? It's a fun book. I like
It's
the art's
extraordinary.
great. The writing is great. It's very compelling.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
It is, if you are reading this, like it is not appropriate for like all ages. If you're
No.
want to give this to like your 9-year-old, there is inappropriate sexual stuff and there's inappropriate like racial, old timey
It's
attitudes that are not
Very
good.
problematic. Yeah,
Yeah.
very problematic. I will say I like the scene where Nemo's like, man, I'm tired of just like acting like a manservant or something. I'm just gonna stay on the damn ship. I ain't going out there.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Every
like
single
that.
time their disguise is like, you're the Indian manservant. He's like, no.
No, tired of it. Get out of here. Staying on the ship. I'm not staying in my room. Not going out. Not going nowhere. That is the key. All right, on to Avengers. We are.
Told you.
We're getting into Avengers number one. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Also, I heard that beard he has, he shaved that the day before.
Oh, damn. That's cool. My beard currently does kind of look a little bit like sort of on the pointy side, a little bit long. It's looking pretty good. I'm very proud of it. I trimmed it the other day, and it's probably the best it's ever looked. And I did it specifically to look like Captain Nemo. Okay. So Avengers number 176, the Korvac Saga. We're so close to the end of it. We're like really deep into the Korvac stuff now. We have Starhawk, who has shown up to help Iron Man and the Avengers locate the enemy. And Iron Man's like, all right, let me recap things for you. A bunch of Avengers started disappearing a little while ago. Turns out it was the Collector trying to preserve them from a possible cosmic calamity caused by, quote, the enemy. And he never got a chance to tell us who the enemy was because he got disintegrated by some kind of fucking blast. And it was nuts. Starhawk is like, well, I think we should still be more worried about Korvac, but I'll see if I can figure out who this villain is. Great.
So,
Thanks, Starhawk.
so what did we learn though that Starhawk can't see Korvac? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Korvac
5 issues
has-
ago, Korvac basically
Yes.
cloaked himself from Starhawk.
So Starhawk
Specifically
will
from
never
Starhawk.
be able to find Korvac. Like the
Yes.
clues, they won't. I think that's such a. I remember
It's
last
great.
issue. I'm like, this is a very fun, ironic twist because then Iron Man's like, hey, I think we should be finding this guy that I'm not sure who it is. It's like, I'll help you, but I never
Yep.
will. It's
Never
so
will.
funny.
He's the worst guy to do it.
Terrible. So meanwhile, Moondragon is like concentrating on something, trying to
Hey.
locate him as well. Yeah, friend of the show, Moondragon.
Love Moondragon.
While Quicksilver and Hawkeye come in and they're arguing because Quicksilver is yelling, yapping his mouth about that damn machine that's married to his sister. Oh my God, do you ever shut up about this? Moondragon is pissed, tired of it, and she just zaps the hate right out of him.
Hell yeah. She's the best.
Yeah,
She fucking
Yeah.
fixes mediocre white men and she turns into a dragon. What's not to love?
what's not to love?
She's great.
Yep. She heads out. She goes to hang out with Captain America and Black Panther and Wonder Man, who they're talking. I think Wonder Man's getting kind of restless, saying, "Hey, we gotta do something." And Moondragon is like, "I sense that something's gonna happen." Thor then crashes through a wall. He's fighting Hercules. They're fighting each other. This had no impact on the story whatsoever. They're just arguing and fighting. Everybody's arguing and fighting. Moondragon then is talking to Iron Man. It's like, Iron Man, hey, you figure anything out yet? And he's like, nothing conclusive. And it's like, okay, cool. We're going to go with my plan then. And she starts psychically summoning everybody. She summons Miss Marvel and Yellow Jacket and Wasp and Captain Marvel. And also Jocasta. I don't think she summons Jocasta, but Jocasta like senses it still and heads back. She's not even an Avenger.
Yeah, I like that Jocasta was wearing just like a purple hat and jacket, but no clothes underneath that. Just like just outerwear. So that when she throws it in the air, she's like, all right, now I'm just a naked silver person.
Mm-hmm. There's a few panels in a row here of people just like completely blown away by superheroes. Like Wasp and Yellow Jacket grow big, and people are like, oh my god, what am I going to tell my wife? And like, oh my god, a metal woman, oh my god. There's a lot of that in this issue.
They didn't recognize she was a metal woman when she was wearing a purple hat and jacket, but now that she's thrown those aside, they're like, oh, a metal woman.
A metal woman. So they all get there. So Moondragon's idea was, hey, this is the great idea I've come up with. We make everybody input the hints they've discovered individually into this computer, and we'll see what they have in common. That's it.
It's like a logic puzzle.
Yeah.
My person wears a red hat and hates lemons. This person loves citrus.
I really I want to understand the program they're putting it in as well, and what these are. They don't mention the clues.
What clues do they have?
They don't mention any clues. They don't mention what this program is doing. But this scene is so messed up because the first person they ask is, all right, Starhawk, put in your clue. And he's like, sorry, didn't find anything. That's it.
I have literally nothing.
Like,
this is a group project for Starhawk where he's like, sorry, man, I'm can't help you.
I don't know. So so everybody else inputs all of their clues, whatever these clues are, and the computer processes for a minute. And it says Forest Hills Gardens in Queens. Okay, thanks, computer. I guess we'll head there.
It's Spider-Man. I knew it.
Yeah.
It's also great because we don't have a plane right now.
Yeah, they don't have. They're still. I guess there was a scene with Michael Korvac and his wife. Between that, Michael Korvac is like, "Oh, they'll never find me. What if they do find me? Oh, they better hope they didn't. Whatever." So they, so what do they say? Cap is like Avengers Assemble, or maybe Iron Man does it. Avengers Assemble, but on the corner outside because we don't have a ship. So they go outside. They're on the street, and this might be the greatest Avengers scene ever written in the history of the Avengers. There's like 20 Avengers standing on the sidewalk, trying to figure out how they're gonna get to Queens, and Iron Man like flags down a bus and says, we got to commandeer this thing. It's an emergency. Everybody has to get off. And so the Avengers all pile onto this bus, and they start driving to Queens. And you know what? It works. Gets them there.
You were still making the stops? People kept pulling them?
Man.
This is infuriating to me, though. For one, I don't think they have Avengers priority status. They can't commandeer shit. One, they have no jurisdiction. Two, they
don't have jurisdiction, Vince. They're just like Tony Stark will write you a check,
and so they just steal the like me and Grand Theft Auto, and then they take this bus, and then they tell everybody else, "We'll get you cabs to get where you're going." It's like, why didn't we just get 20 cabs for the Avengers and just go to Queens? It probably would have been the same amount of money, and we wouldn't have to be dicks to all these people getting off a bus.
Takes longer to get 20 cabs, Vince. We're not in an airport.
I would love it if like Scarlet Witch or Vision was just back there like, I have gotten us 20 Ubers. We are good to go. Right. Getting in this Subaru, you'll be getting in this Mazda, and we'll be going.
I've actually only ordered 5 because the rest of the Avengers can fly to Queens, and so Thor, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, or Ms. Marvel, you don't need.
Where the fuck were they to get back to where Avengers Mansion or Tower or wherever they go? They were already pretty far.
Yeah. Vision.
3 cars probably would have been enough, considering the number that can fly and can whatever.
Yeah,
man.
just get
These
Captain
Avengers.
America, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, all the non-flyers in a handful of cars.
That said, the image of them all on a bus together is pretty goddamn
Pretty good.
great.
It's
Pretty
awesome.
I don't remember who the artist is. I'm going back to the front page right now.
And
it's not
and
George
them-
Perez.
No,
it's not George Perez.
It
Them
is.
piling out as well is great.
David
It is
Winslow
really
and
good.
Pablo Marcus.
Yeah, I mean, Sal Buscema was doing a few issues. This has been closer to George Perez. Like, I really like this
Yeah.
issue's art.
I really, really like the faces of all these suburban homeowners who are like, hey, you superheroes around here, you're going to cause a bunch of property damage? I'm not into this. We don't like having you around.
This is going to fuck me with the HOA. I don't like this at all.
Yep.
Affect my property taxes.
And then they're like, hey, that home, that's the address the computer told us to go to. So let's go there. So they head there, and they knock the door, and it's Michael Korvac answers the door, but they don't really know it's him.
The big buff boy that they answer them.
Yeah. And Iron Man says, I wrote this down, the full quote. I'm sorry to bother you, sir, but we've reason to believe that something in this house poses great peril to the future of mankind. May we come in? It's very, very sweet. And they pop in, and all the Avengers go searching everywhere, and they don't find anything. Michael Korvac is like, yeah, just a regular home, nothing to find here. Nothing going on. But apparently this whole time, Starhawk is just fucking going nuts because he's just like, who the hell are y'all talking to? There's nobody there.
So great.
Michael Korvac
is
hidden.
I love it.
To Starhawk. And, you know,
I love it. Starhawk thinks this is like an elaborate prank on him. He's like, why are you guys doing this to me?
Oh, man. Loses his shit. And everybody else realizes what that has to mean. That's our enemy. Oh my god.
This is perfect storytelling to me. Because
It's really
the reveal of who is the bad guy is only revealed by the absence of the bad guy. It's brilliant.
Mhm.
It's so beautiful.
Brilliant.
It's perfect like D&D campaign of like a guy like you're barbarian with like level 2 perception just like rolls a 20 and is like there's only one way that I could know this.
It's so good. It's so good. It's brilliant.
So yeah, he starts to unleash his power. He's like, you should all pay, and presumably next issue we'll get the big fight scene. But yeah, we're finally at the Korvac fireworks factory, and it's good stuff. Good stuff. So next time on the show, the finale. Why did I say it like that? The finale of the Korvac Saga. the finale. Avengers 177. We will be also, of course, last issue. We got to figure out our next long read at that point. So stay tuned for that. But our main read next time is going to be, this would have to be the most modern book we've ever covered. It came out this year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Last year?
Like April, I think, is what it came out.
Wow.
Of 2022.
Mere months
A
ago.
pandemic book produced during the pandemic.
Wow. We are reading Neil Gaiman's Chivalry with art by Colleen Doran. It is probably going to get nominated for an Eisner because, let's just guess.
Because we are on the
Neil
Eisner
Gaiman
voting
stuff tends to
committee.
be.
No, we are not.
Are we?
right.
We should
That's
be.
right.
We should. It's kind of a short read, 72 pages. So we'll do that. We'll do the finale of the Korvac Saga, and then we'll announce some fun stuff for the time after that. But yeah, I think that's all we've got to mention here. Anything else we got to say about this issue of Avengers? Maybe I wrapped it up a little quick here.
It's fun.
But it's fun.
Well, the fireworks factory is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. I think that fight also just had to happen because there was no other fights in the book. That fight with
Yeah.
Thor and Hercules, you had to have some punching.
Yeah, I love that Hercules gets to Korvac's house and he's like, there's no battle here. He's like so disappointed.
There's a lot of meatheads on this team.
I know.
There we are.
Hercules, Quicksilver, Hawkeye. There's a lot of dum-dums.
Yeah, don't worry, meatheads. We'll get some fighting for you next time. But what else is going on here? Chris, how is your Stupid Minds doing? Anything new?
Your Stupid Minds. We took a brief hiatus for the holidays. We re-released one of our highest downloaded episodes. Which I don't know why. Maybe it's because people thought it's a different movie with the same title. But we re-released our episode on Skyscraper, not the one with The Rock. But
That's absolutely what they thought you did.
Yeah, 100%.
but the one with what's her name? The famously huge breasted woman who married a 80-some-year-old man. Anna Nicole Smith's Skyscraper.
Oh, from National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1.
Yes, and The Hudsucker Proxy, a good movie.
Written by Sam Raimi,
She was in
directed
it?
by the Coen brothers.
She's very briefly in The Hudsucker Proxy. But yes, Skyscraper is a starring vehicle for her where it's basically what if Die Hard, but Bruce Willis was a helicopter pilot who took the terrorists to the place and also was a blonde woman with huge fake breasts. What if that?
Scrape the sky.
How would it go?
Amazing. Vince, what's up with you?
Nothing's up with me. Just chilling like a villain named Dylan on penicillin. Just keeping it real. I don't know. Watching Obi-Wan, thinking about Star Wars. Star Wars. That's my plug. Check it out. Star Wars Obi-Wan. It's pretty good.
All right, cool. Yeah, nothing much for me over here. I'm really getting that streaming itch again here. I might have to get a new PC so I can get back to it.
Nice.
I did beat Elden Ring finally. Spent way too long on it, and there's one boss I haven't been able to kill, but it's optional. I'll get to it soon. I got to put in some more work, but the game is technically beaten. And that's it. Thank you. I just want the podcast listeners to be proud of me for beating.
I'm very
Yes,
proud
I'm
of
also
you for
proud of
beating
you.
Elden Ring. I will never play it. My Steam Deck I think is coming soon, but I don't think I'll get Elden Ring on it. I don't think
That's probably yeah. You don't need to. Yeah, it's probably not your type of game, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's it. Anything else we want to talk about? Anything else we want to mention? I got nothing else.
No. But
No.
no. Yeah, I think
All
that's it. I think our next episode will be after Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to me. Woo.
Oh, happy Father's Day to you.
Happy Father's Day to all you papas out there too.
All the papas. And all the mamas. Don't think we forgot you during Mother's Day, even though I guess we technically didn't say anything to them. But
They weren't listening to the podcast.
mamas and papas, I love you. Vince, I love you.
I love you too.
Chris, I love you.
You little shit.
Jesus. Listeners, we love you as well. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye.